And now let's talk about ties between India and Ukraine. They haven't been great, especially lately, particularly since Russia began the war. Why? Because India has not completely rallied behind Ukraine. And don't get me wrong, New Delhi is not supporting the brutal war. Prime Minister Narendra Modi told Russian President Putin that this is not the era for war. India is pushing for a diplomatic solution. But Kyiv has been critical of India. Listen to what their foreign minister said just a few months ago.
You can enjoy the benefit of buying cheap Russian oil because someone in Ukraine is dying because of the Russian aggression.
They're upset because India buys Russian oil. Ukraine says India is bankrolling the Russian war machine. Never mind the fact that India must look after its own economic interests, or that Europe was buying oil and more from Russia. The numbers speak for themselves. Ukraine's criticism was reserved only for India. It offered moral lectures for months on end. Now suddenly the tone has changed. Ukraine says it is in no position to instruct India, and it's seeking humanitarian aid. So what happened? Is it a change of heart or a change of circumstances? There's no doubt that Ukraine needs help. It is not making gains on the battlefield. This week, their deputy foreign minister is in India. Her name is Emine Zaparova. She's on a 4-day official visit and seems to have come with an olive branch and an agenda. Listen to what she said on Monday.
I think that India, as a global player, really is a Vishwaguru of the world. And this is what we also feel in Ukraine by actually fighting for the values. This is about justice.
Vishwaguru. It roughly translates to global teacher or guide. It's what India aims to be. So unless she's mocking India, this was high praise coming from Ukraine. And a stark departure from the comments of her boss, Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmitry Kuleba. He slammed India and India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar for reminding the world that Europe too buys Russian oil. He said the oil India buys from Russia contains the blood of Ukrainians. So why is his deputy doing this about turn? Because Ukraine wants something. Two somethings, actually. One relates to the upcoming G20 summit in India.
Ukrainian agenda is something that impacts the whole world because it's a litmus paper that shows all of the drawbacks and flaws of the international system and incapability to protect sovereign countries whenever it's attacked by a stronger one. So I think that India may take also this leadership by involving and engaging Ukrainian agenda into discussions that would take place at the side events or sidelines or the events dedicated to the G20 or within summits of G20.
Zelensky wants to speak at the G20 meeting that will be held in India in the month of September, like he did last year when Indonesia hosted the summit in Bali. But India may have other plans. New Delhi has not publicly spoken about Zelensky's request. Reports say India wants to focus on global economic challenges, and it doesn't want the meeting to be hijacked by Ukraine. It happened the last time, with the West on one side and Russia and China on the other. So this time, Zelensky may not get a global platform. What's the second thing that Kyiv wants from New Delhi? Symbolic visits, apparently. Ukraine wants Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit the country, to take a walk through the capital like his European counterparts keep doing. The wish may not be granted, given India's ties with Russia. These ties go back to the old Soviet Union days, so an Indian Prime Minister visiting Ukraine at this time sounds like a pipe dream, and Kyiv probably realizes this too, so it has proposed another name.
Ukrainian people are now experts in international relations. They closely watch the comments of different leaders, as well as the Prime Minister Modi, the travels of the National Security Advisor, Mr. Doval, and when he 3 times go to Moscow, of course, it's a matter of question if he would come to Kyiv, and we also will be happy to welcome leaders and officials of India in Kyiv, just to balance and just to kind of demonstrate pragmatic approach.
Ukraine says it wants India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval to visit as a sign of balance. It's a strange request, but then again, the war has shown that optics matter. New Delhi will have to take a call on whether this makes sense for India. There are other requests that Kyiv has made, like more Indian medical supplies and the kind of stuff that Foreign Minister Kuleba does not talk about when he targets India. India has been providing Ukraine with medicines and medical equipment since the war began. This is a show of solidarity for those affected by the violence. It's a humanitarian form of support. There's also a letter from President Zelensky addressed to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Its contents have not been made public yet, but it's reportedly a request for more aid from India. And all of this marks a shift in the stance of Kyiv. Pushed to the wall, it is working to mend ties with India instead of being confrontational. It's a step in the right direction, of course. We're waiting to see how India responds.